Hey everybody, my name is Tristan and I'm 24 years old. Right now, I'm in the process of selling everything that I own, everything, and risking it all for a goal. I'm going to become a billionaire within the next 7 years, and I would love to document every single step of the way. Why do I say this? Who even am I? And what is my plan? We're going to get into all that. So first off, who am I? Like I said, my situation is not ideal, and most recently, I was at my lowest point in my life. My previous venture failed pretty hard, and I fell pretty hard. But in failing so much, I have learned so much invaluable experience that I'm using to build what I'm building now. Because for the past 7 years, I have built not only companies, but a life philosophy that I adhere to so strongly that it's become a part of who I am. I have searched myself on its deepest level. And what I found within is a drive so strong and determination so unbreaking that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to succeed with what I'm doing now, which is why I'm filming it. The thing is about startups is that I've noticed a lot of people get lost in the facts and they forget what the goal of the company, of any company, is, which is to make money, right? That was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned with my last venture. So the goal is to have enough funds to bootstrap myself to move to San Francisco, find a co-founder, raise money, and then after that, create an amazing company, right? It doesn't matter what I'm making specifically, because I know for a fact that the market demands it, and the demand is so hot right now, it would be stupid not to build what I'm building, right? And it's funny I say that because when I was at my lowest point in my life, I almost totally quit, right? There's a difference between failing and quitting, right? Failing is good, right? You learn so much when you fail, right? But when you quit, you don't use the experience from the failures to implement on the next try. So the original plan about 6 months ago was to travel the world and travel the world for about a year to get some life experience. But I already have a lot of life experience. I've been through a lot. And this plan changed because recently, about a month and a half ago, I was this close to leaving. The whole plan was to go to Paris and travel Europe and then Asia and then, the Africa and South America. It was going to be amazing, right? But that's not very wise. As fun as it would be to stay in hostels and meet people my age and party and see the mountains and meet really cool people, I don't think it's the wisest thing to do, because I'm at a very crucial point right now where I can either do that and I can be happy, but I won't be fulfilled, because in the back of my mind, I know what could have been, right? And so, like I said, about a month and a half ago, I woke up and I looked around my room. I was like, I gotta get out of here right now. I have to leave. I gotta go. I gotta go right now. And that day, I just searched up places to live in SF. And I found one place. I signed a lease. I didn't even think about where it was. Like, of course, I thought about where it was. It's in the middle of South of Market, right, which is a prime spot to be in SF. But I found this lease. I signed it. It's super cheap, and I'm going to be there in 19 days. And I'm nervous. I'm really nervous, right? Because, what if it doesn't work out? I'm not worried about that right now. What I'm really focused on is, what if it does really well? Because I'm not necessarily betting on the idea of my company, right? I know for a fact it's going to do well. What I'm betting on is myself. And that's the best bet I can make. Because not only is it a calculated risk, but because I am more experienced and a veteran of what I'm doing now. So, within 2 to 3 weeks, I'm leaving. I'm taking these backpacks. I have my big backpack, my office backpack, my gym bag. And that's it. This desk, this is going away. I just bought this keyboard. I just bought this MacBook. I haven't had a MacBook ever. I've used the same laptop for 7 years, and it's falling apart. And it fell apart. And I used that laptop until it died. Because it doesn't matter the tools that you use. What matters is how you use the tools. So that's what I'm doing. So why San Francisco, out of all places in the world? Well, a lot of reasons. It was either San Francisco or New York. Because of my engineering background and my experience with talking to investors, raising money, which I've done before, finding co-founders, I've done all that before, right? And it went really well. But what didn't go well was the product that I was building in the past. And now that I've learned from the mistakes, I can use those lessons to do it right this time. And so if San Francisco is the best place in the world, in my opinion, to pursue this next venture. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm risking everything. I have no backup plan besides maybe to get a job. But I have a feeling it's all going to work out. So let's get down to the numbers on how much money I actually have to do this. One of the goals of this channel is to be fully transparent with everything, right? And the hardest thing to be transparent about is the money, right? Which is why I'm doing it first. In total, between selling my car, selling all my assets, my savings, some money from my parents to help me out. Majority of it is from the car savings and selling my Bitcoin and my silver, my safe that I had and whatnot. It's about $20,000, give or take $2,000, right? That's not a lot of money. But with the way I live, it's more than enough time to figure it out along the way. And I've been doing that my whole life. And so far, it's working out pretty well. Not because of what I have physically, but mentally, who I've become. That's something you can't buy. Only time and experience can get you those things. So with that amount of money, I'm going to be in SF and do this whole thing and just pray and work really, really hard to make sure that this opportunity does not go to waste. Because let's break it down for a second. What is this opportunity exactly, right? Between the market timing, between my experience, and combining that with location, persistence, and a little bit of luck and faith, the odds of me achieving my goal is a lot higher than it was when I first started. So now the question becomes, what can I do within those 7 months to achieve this? And I just told you the plan. It's pretty straightforward. And that's the thing, is that it's such a simple plan. But doing it is a much different question, right? It takes so much determination. It takes so much willpower, persistence. But I'm crazy enough to do it. Why am I filming this? Why even bother documenting, taking time out of my day away from my company to do this, right? Well, the reason is pretty simple. And that's because I guess it stems from when I was younger, right? When I was in high school, I was 17, 16, doesn't matter. I was doing really well in school. I was like top 20 in my class. I was straight A's. Hardest class, I was, taking college credit classes my senior year. But I guess a quarter way through my senior year, I realized that this sucks. I don't want to pursue academia. I hate tests. I hate academia. I love learning. I hate the academic environment, right? It's just so restrictive. And this is a sacrifice that I have seen. It's a pattern that comes up over and over again when you read these biographies of these people who've built amazing companies, right? Such as Oracle, Google, Airbnb, and plenty of others, right? Nike, it's a great one. There are so many good examples of people who have sacrificed their future to build something great, to solve a problem. And they didn't film any of it. They only wrote about it. And in the sections of the book that talk about what it took to get there, it's about 5 to 10% of the pages of the entire book. That's not enough. I'm curious to see, you're curious to see what it takes to build a company, to build yourself, to succeed. What is success? To me, success is being satisfied in every single area of your life. Self, wealth, and health, right? And that covers 90% of the topics in this video I'm going to cover. Well, not in this video, but the next one. But in order to achieve satisfaction and true fulfillment in all those areas, money is an amazing tool to get there, right? It's not the end goal. The end goal is not money. Personally, it's not the end goal for me. Really, it's about the sport of business. Poets write poetry, artists paint pictures. I love building stuff and seeing it succeed. That's my art. So, going back to the question, why am I filming this? I'm going to set an example for future generations to show you what it takes. What are the hard nights like? What am I doing? What is my day like? What's my routine? What don't I do? That's even more important than doing stuff. That's stuff you don't see behind the scenes. And I'm going to film as much as I can, right? Obviously, I'm not going to film stuff that's like sensitive, like my API keys for database, or corporate secrets, or stuff I've signed for non-disclosure agreements. I'm not talking about any about that. What I'm talking about is the raw life that happens in order to get from, where I'm at today to a successful company. Because in doing that, there's this spectrum of becoming the person that can run a successful company, that can have a successful life, that is fulfilled. It's not every day you see what it takes for these people who've made it, right? And whatever version of making it is for you. You don't see the work that goes into it, right? You just see like the success, the cars, the women, You don't see what the hours it's taken, the sacrifices that were involved in all aspects to get there. And there are people out there that they only start to record after the fact they've made it, right? I'm not going to name any names, but there's a lot of good business vloggers out there who have done this partially, right? But they only film the parts that want to be filmed. And that's kind of the anti-philosophy of why I'm filming this, right? I'm filming the parts that shouldn't be filmed, right? Or rather, the parts that are never shown to the public on, the hard nights where you're lying in bed, awake, thinking until 3 a.m. about the problems that you just worked on 6 hours ago, right? Maybe it's code, maybe it's a meeting you had, maybe it's one thing that could have been different in your business plan or the budget, or I should have said this, I should have said this to this investor or whatnot, right? The last section of this video is dedicated to the conclusion of what I've been talking about. Who I am. I'm an engineer at the end of the day. That's all I am. We're all artists and engineers at the end of the day. Why I'm doing this? Why not? Let's just see what happens. Why San Francisco? Because there's no better place in the world to do what I'm doing. Arguably. Why am I filming it? Well, I think it's important to document something like this because nobody else has before. And let me just say this real quick. I will never sell a course. I'm not one of those people. I'm not going to launch a token that's like a, Tristan token. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not going to do anything scammy. I'm not here to make a quick buck. No. I'm just here to document it. And in the past, I've done YouTube, like as a kid. I made like old short films when I was younger, making like Nerf videos and whatnot. But this is different. And the scene for vlogging is so much different now that, honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I'm not even sure this video is going to do well. And quite honestly, I don't care if it does well, because what matters to me at the end of the day is my success, both internally and externally. That's all that matters to me at the end of the day. A lot of other things matter as well, but for the purpose of example, that's what I'm saying. So, the last thing I do want to say is that failure is only a stepping stone for what's next. The only difference between winners and losers is that winners get back up after failure.